Hey, Pretty Girl Club. Today I'm going to talk about how to become more multicultural. So, I know that there are a lot of you guys on this channel where maybe you are part Asian or part white or something like that, and maybe you were not raised in that culture, or maybe that parent or grandparent has passed away and you didn't get to grow up in that background. Maybe you are adopted, or you didn't grow up around your mom and dad. Maybe you grew up around your grandma, your aunt and uncle, or your older cousins raised you. And so, for whatever reason, you just didn't engage in a part of that culture. Or maybe you took the DNA test and you just found out that you had some fun things in your admixtures and you want to celebrate those things. Well, let me start off by saying number one, everyone has the right to celebrate themselves. I don't care if you are 5% Nigerian. Like, I celebrate my fucking Nigerian. I celebrate my fucking 16% Nigerian, or like whatever. It's a very low percentage. I have some other African in there too, but it's like, I celebrate my freaking 15% Nigerian. Hell yeah. I watch all the fucking Nollywood movies. I'm going to wear an African head wrap when I go to the Martin Luther King Jr. parade, or I might wear a shirt that has something African on it, because guess what? It's still a part of me. So there is no percentage level where it's like, oh no, you have to have at least this percentage in order to embrace it. That's not why I talked about the percentage level on this channel. I only talked about that so that people don't get confused, and so that people don't think that I'm trying to say every single person has the same experience, every single person is mixed race or whatever. I just wanted to establish my core audience. So that's the only reason that I really even brought up the whole DNA thing, because I feel like at the 25% mark, it's not even an argument anymore. It's like, you are completely ignorant if you think somebody with 25% of a whole other race is not mixed. Like, that's complete ignorance. Like, your own mother came out of the womb of a white woman at that point. But you're telling me you're supposed to be an unambiguous black African woman? No, that doesn't make sense. But anyway, that's the only reason I brought that up. So, one of the main ways that you can embrace your culture is you can take the DNA test if you're one of those people who believes in the DNA test. But if you do not like the DNA test, or you think it's inaccurate, you can always ask your family members about your background. You can ask your grandparents or the oldest people in your family. You can ask them about what your background is, or if they have any stories of, how they grew up. So for example, let's say you have a Native American background. Can you ask your grandmother or your great grandmother, if she's still alive, can you ask her what it was like, or if they went to any tribal events, or if they wore any particular colors, or if there are any special holidays they celebrate? Another way that you can embrace your background is by, this is one of my favorites, celebrating the holidays, or going to celebrations in your city that talk about your culture. And by the way, this actually works for monoracials as well. If you just want to become more of a cultured person and you want to become more comfortable around other cultures, you have to respect those cultures. That's number one. For example, I have seen where in my hometown they have a Greek festival. So I'm not Greek, but they have this beautiful Greek festival. They have people dressed up in these little dresses and stuff. They have all of these different like wines and food items that they serve. So if you look in your city, all you have to do is just look up Cincinnati Greek Festival, New York Greek Festival, New York City Italian Festival. Just start Googling and seeing if there are any cultural events coming up in your city, because that can also be a fun little date that you can go on with Bae, or you can go with your friends somewhere. Like, you and your girlfriends can go to a parade. Like, I am going to a Martin Luther King Jr. festival / parade when that comes up next week. You'd be surprised at what amazing things they have in every city that celebrate diversity. So another thing that I've done is I have looked up classes, like dance classes that pertain to my cultural backgrounds. So I have told you guys about how they have free salsa classes in my city. Maybe if you have an Asian background, do they have free yoga classes, or do they have like Bollywood classes that you can go to? I have even seen in my city where they also have Tai Chi, they had karate, they had judo. So do they have one of those classes that you can go to? Because that's another way that you can embrace your culture. There is no rule for what makes you a part of a culture. You get to choose whether or not you want to participate in it. This is why I say I will gladly jump in and out of blackness at my leisure. Nobody can stop me from doing it. If I want to participate in black culture by going to the Martin Luther King Jr. parade, then I can. And if I choose not to go, then I don't have to go and I don't have to be a part of it. I'm not banished from the black community because I didn't attend the parade. Like, I feel like people, they make it more serious than what it really is. It's like, no, I get to decide what cultures I want to participate in. All of those people who have the mindset of if you didn't grow up in it, you're not a part of it, that's a very closed-minded way to think, and that is a very basically you're fucked, because now you're saying that if you grew up poor, guess what? That's the only culture you get to be a part of, because that how you grew up, that defines your cultural background, right? So now your cultural background is not only locked in and can never change, but any negative aspects of your childhood, now that defines your identity. So that's very dumb in my opinion. I am very pro fluid identity. That's what I call it. I believe that the best form of identity any person can have for themselves should be an identity that's fluid, meaning you give yourself the freedom to change. You give yourself the freedom to say, hey, you know what? I have a Mediterranean background, so I'm going to try the Mediterranean diet, and that's going to be my new diet for the next month. I'm going to be eating olives and hummus and just living my best life and embracing that part of my cultural background. I believe that that is a part of what makes life fun. It's being able to change, being able to experience new things. Another way that I like to embrace different aspects of my culture is by learning the languages. So let's say you have an Italian background. Can you start learning Italian on the side? You don't have to become the next expert at Italian, but the fact that you're even making an effort and the fact that you can even say one paragraph in Italian, trust me, that's probably more than like 90% of Americans. So that is impressive, okay? If you know a full phrase in Italian, can you put an Italian phrase in your bio on Instagram? Can you put an Italian phrase in your social media? Or can you call yourself a nickname in Italian? Can you call yourself beautiful in Italian? I think it's the word Bella, right? I don't know. That's my white background kicking in. But I think it is the word Bella in Italian. So can you incorporate that language into your everyday language, or can you incorporate that language into your social media? Or maybe you can get a piece of jewelry that says Bella on it, or maybe you can get a bracelet that says some phrase on it in your language. Maybe you have a background that's Arab. Can you get a piece of jewelry or a chain or a bracelet or something that has a phrase on it in Arabic? Or can you get like a little temporary tattoo? Or if you're into tattoos, can you get a tattoo of a phrase in Arabic? And maybe that will remind you of your cultural background. There are so many different ways that you can begin to incorporate your culture into your life. Another excuse that I've heard from some mixed people is they'll say, well, my brother doesn't identify with this. My sister doesn't identify the same way as me. They don't identify as Blasian. They don't call themselves Black and Italian. They don't call themselves Blaxican or whatever. Your own brothers and sisters also don't get to determine what portion of your identity you choose to celebrate. So, you know those black people who are like, oh, black people don't go hiking, black people don't go kayaking, black people don't go canoeing. Okay, so if you choose to allow your race to put you in a box, or if you choose to allow your DNA or lack of another DNA to put you in a cultural box, that's fine. But just because you don't go kayaking or do whatever, that doesn't mean that I can't do that shit. I get to enjoy my life however I see fit. So if that means that I'm meeting a stereotype of another culture, so be it. But I'm going to be enjoying my life. So just because your own family members don't even identify with a certain thing, or maybe they don't cook certain foods, that doesn't mean that you can't cook those foods. That doesn't mean that you can't cherish that part of who you are. That doesn't mean you can't love that part of your background. Other people's timing and embracing their own identity, it may be different than your timing. Some people may have traumas attached to certain parts of their identity. Like I know that a lot of mixed race African Americans, they don't like to embrace the white side because they feel like, oh, that came from slavery and blah, 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 and somebody got raped and whatever. Okay, so I understand that. Like, if you don't want to embrace that, and if you just want to represent yourself as unambiguous Black, and that's all you want to embrace, that's fine. This may not be the channel for you. I'm not sure why you'd even be on this channel. But if that's what you want to do, that's okay, because I understand how some people, they're not ready to embrace every part of themselves. But that's okay. That just means that you are further along in your journey of embracing yourself than they are. That just means that you are more confident in your racial background. You're more confident in your ethnic background than they are because you have taken the time to interact with it more. People who are multicultural, they weren't just born that way. They didn't come out of the womb knowing all of those things. They practiced speaking Spanish at home. They practiced making the soul food at home, or they practiced making the different foods. They watched the TV shows. They listened to the music in their spare time. So dipping into a new culture, it's actually a practice. You have to make time for it. And by the way, it should be something that's fun. It shouldn't feel like it's daunting or overwhelming, like, oh my God, I have to learn all these languages and do all this stuff. No, you can find a fun way to incorporate it. So for example, if I were Creole, I would be drinking a French roast coffee right now because I've heard some Creoles say, well, I don't really know my family's history like in the United States. I don't really connect with that. Okay, well, Creoles, I know that they have French in their background. Can't you learn? You can learn about France or about, I don't know, the French colonies, or you can like eat some croissants or visit New Orleans, or you can just begin to learn about different aspects of the culture. Just because you're not an expert on a particular culture, it doesn't mean that you're not a part of it. I'm not an expert on everything that has to do with blackness. I'm not an expert on everything that has to do with whiteness. And who is? This is not a competition. Ethnicity and culture are not a competition. It's not a contest to see, oh, well, I know more words than you in Spanish. Oh, well, I know more of the black rappers than you, so like I'm more black than you. Now, that's very immature. Like this isn't, I'm not competing with other people to see who fits more black stereotypes. My goal is not to fit into a stereotype. My goal is to just embrace myself, and enjoy my background. But one fun activity you can do is when you go to a restaurant, you can start trying to look at menus. Like when you're looking at the menu at a restaurant or a cafe or something, you can look and see, okay, is there anything from my cultural background on this menu? Because I've been to so many coffee shops where I'm like, oh my God, they have Mexican mochas or Mexican style, like they have chamoy here. They have all of these different things that I never expected them to have, but they have it on this menu. And I've seen a lot of menus like that where it's like they have French roast coffee. Okay, that's French. That's not American. So if you have a French background, you can start trying those things like, okay, let me try the French roast. Okay, you know what? I'm going to try the Italian coffee. So that's a fun way that you can start to look for your cultural influences in other areas. I love doing that. Another thing that I love to do is you can wear the colors of the flags from your culture. So maybe, I don't know why I keep mentioning France today. I don't know what color the French flag is, but maybe you can try to incorporate those colors in your wardrobe. And then every time you see yourself in the mirror with those colors on, you can remind yourself, oh yeah, I am part French. Or you can wear the cute hats. I love berets. I think those are French, right? The French berets. I love those. You can wear a cute little hat, and then when you look in the mirror, it's reminding you, yeah, like that is a part of my heritage. And that's how you will begin to get more comfortable with your background. And by the way, this whole channel, it's not about getting comfortable with your background so you can impress others, or getting comfortable with your background so that you can seek other people's validation of your own background. It's about getting comfortable with yourself. You are the person who gets to decide, am I comfortable enough in this culture? Am I comfortable enough embracing this part of myself? You are the ultimate judge of yourself. Don't ever let other people try to invalidate you because, again, there is no standard. It's not like, oh, if you don't know 5 different types of French coffee, you're not French. Oh, if you can't speak French, you're not a real Creole. If you're not light skinned, you're not a real Creole. Like, there is no set standard of stereotypes you have to meet in order to fit into each culture. This whole channel is just about embracing yourself and not being ashamed of who you are, and also not pretending that you are simply unambiguous if you're really not, and not pretending that you look like every unambiguous monoracial dark-skinned black woman if you do not actually look like that. That's what this whole channel is created for. But another thing that I always found fun was going to the different parades and stuff. So if you live in a big city, usually they have parades almost every month. So if you are part Irish, St. Patrick's Day is coming up, so you can go to the St. Patrick's Day parade. Even if you just go by yourself, that's okay. You can go to the St. Patrick's Day parade. You can go to the Martin Luther King Jr. parade to embrace your black side if that's the side that you don't normally embrace. You can start celebrating the holidays like the Day of the Dead if you have a Latin American background. For those of you who enjoy dabbling with different spiritual practices or different spiritual beliefs, you can start looking up like what were the spiritual practices of the Creoles? What were the spiritual practices of the Latin American side or of the Asian, my Asian background? What were those practices? Can I incorporate any of those things? What was the diet like? Like, what did they eat in China? Like, if you're part Chinese or something, you can say, what did they eat in China? Do they eat a lot of soups? Do they like to eat sushi? Do they like certain types of tea, like matcha? And you can begin playing around with those different things and incorporating those into your everyday life. I'm considering starting a series on this channel where I go through each culture, but I don't want to mess it up. But I was considering going through like how to embrace your Asian side, how to embrace your Latin side, how to embrace, and then like trying to hopefully go through each one. And I hope that I don't offend anyone, but I think that would be really cool just to like do videos and talk about how to embrace those sides of yourself, because I feel like we have so many people on this channel. Now we have 10,000 pretty girls. I'm so excited. We have 10,000 Exoticals on here. So you guys have so many different ethnic backgrounds, and I can think of so many beautiful creative ideas of like how you can embrace those things. Like, for example, I'm thinking right now of the Exoticals who may have an Arab background. Can you like take a belly dancing class? Can you start to incorporate, those cute little skirts that they wear sometimes? Can you start to wear those? Or like maybe when you go to the pool this summer, instead of wearing a basic sarong or a cover up from Shein, you can wear your cute little belly dancing little scarf and put that over your bikini instead of the basic stuff that all the other girls are going to wear. And that could be a part of the way that you're showing off your background without having to say a word. So I do feel like there are so many creative things that we can do to express ourselves and to express our cultures, or just to dip our toe in and like decide whether or not we want to keep doing that. Maybe you could even try the makeup. Like I've seen the Indian bridal makeup and stuff. That looks so gorgeous. Like, can you try that on yourself? Especially if you have some of those features as well. That would probably look beautiful on you. So anyway, what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comments section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.